Welcome to the Mid-Penn Bank Podcast, hosted by President and CEO Rory Retriever. In this episode, Rory is joined by Greg Zimmerman, owner of the tobacco company. Here's the conversation.
Actually, the reason we've known each other for a bunch of years. You've been helping out with the golf tournament, and by the way, all the celebrities we bring from all over the country, and it's for our golf tournament, and they love your stuff. Yeah. I mean, so those cigar parties, the 2 cigar parties that we have, and all the cigars throughout the event. I mean, they just they eat it up. So we really appreciate that. But so actually, I was sitting around on my deck in Ocean City with 2 guys that you probably know, John Suknak and Dave Lenardi.
Yeah.
And I think it must have been in September, a couple months after the golf tournament. They both go to at least to the pairings party, and they were saying, "Oh, well, that Greg Zimmerman, man, do you know who that, do you know who that guy is?" And they kept going on and on about you, to the point where I was like, I think they got man crushes on you, but not that there's anything wrong with that, but they were they were in essence saying that they felt that you were one of the most interesting people that they've ever met, and that's why I wanted to get you on the podcast. So.
Well, I'm surprised they think that, but I'm usually a little reserved, a little quiet, but
they did say that.
Yeah,
they said that it would probably be tough to
Oh no, we'll talk.
Yeah,
yeah, we get it too.
So you're from around here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we went to high school in opposing teams.
All right. So did you go to East?
I went to East.
Okay.
Graduated 81, I think, same year.
All right. So I was going to say, did you graduate during Carter, Reagan, or?
Yeah, Reagan, actually. Yeah.
So you graduated in 81.
Yep.
So we were in the exact same class. Did you play football then?
I did.
So at that time, what's your memory of who the big players were at McDevitt?
I remember Frank Kuntz.
Oh, yeah, of course. And
he
just
passed. Yeah.
Great guy.
He was an awesome guy. But I was trying to think of that today this morning. I was like, we're probably going to make that McDevitt connection because I got a lot of relatives. You probably graduated with the Marsicos.
Yeah.
Eddie's my cousin.
So
the Furies.
Any relationship to the Zimmermans that went to McDevitt?
My youngest brother went.
Okay.
But I don't think, other than my immediate family, I really don't have a lot of Zimmerman relatives.
So how about
though it's a very large family.
Former Attorney General was Leroy. Is he?
Well, the very strange part is his mother was Italian, and so on the Italian side, my mom's Italian. So on that side, we're somehow related, but not on the Zimmerman side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and you said your younger brother went to McDevitt?
My youngest brother. There's 4 of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
We grew up in Rutherford. Yeah. So the 3 older, we all went to East, and then the youngest, my mom was like, "All right, that's enough. We got to get a Catholic education in there somewhere."
So who were the big football players at East at that time, other than you?
Tommy Wilkerson was our running back, big 33 player. We had a guy, Scott Bollinger, who was a pretty good player. Drew Green was our quarterback. I was running back, tailback, or flanker.
Yeah, so at McDevitt at that time, Kuntz was the biggest name.
Yeah, I can't remember where he went to play. I thought it was SMU, but somebody corrected me a couple months back, but it wasn't.
I think he and a bunch of other guys all went to the same kind of like, I don't know if it was necessarily a JUCO, but he could have gone, look, first of all, he could have played basketball or football in college. We were just talking about that because I had Adam Brenneman on the show a few weeks ago, and we were talking about Fran. I don't think I've ever seen a better athlete up to that point in my life. Then I went to Pitt, and saw some incredible athletes there. But so it was Fran, and then Greg Euchre. I don't know if you remember Greg Euchre.
Remember that name?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was kind of the toughest guy. He's the guy that most other teams remember because I think he got into a fight with every other team.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't really get in any fights during the game, but it was pretty contentious. I can remember. Yeah,
it was different back then.
Oh yeah.
Like the rivalries were better, and you were playing either on a Friday night if it was at Seed East or a Saturday morning at McDevitt, and I think things were a little more chippy then. I don't know.
Yeah. In fact, I think There's a girl that I dated that graduated from McDevitt in '81, Sue Forney. Do you remember her?
Oh yeah.
Just when we were young. I think it was junior high school.
Yeah.
But,
I think she ended up marrying a Kelja.
oh yeah.
I think.
Well, again, the McDevitt tie. My roommate in college was Carmen Amatrino, who graduated in '80.
Yeah.
Bekelja Greg graduated in '80 as well. So a lot of the McDevitt alumni.
I think if I got the right person, I think Greg and Sue got married.
Yeah, Sue Rickard.
Sue Rickard, not Sue Forney.
Yeah.
I got that mixed up.
Yeah, her brother Greg. I remember him. I think he's a good golfer.
Yeah.
Chris Crowley.
Oh yeah, Crowley.
Yeah, he was a good golfer. Those guys used to hang out in our room at college. So
I haven't seen Crowley in a bunch of years. Last time was probably down at. He used to spend a lot of time at the old Hope Station. Became Donnie Brown's place.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd always see him down there.
Yeah, he became
worked for Donnie.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah,
and then he over in Enola.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of the bar, but I remember back in the day when you could smoke cigars at all these different places. We used to have cigars. The Grotto, that's what it was called, I think.
So right now you've got 2 locations, right?
Yes.
You have one over Lemoyne near the plaza.
Correct. Yep.
And kind of on the back end of the plaza.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And one off of 322.
Yeah, right where the Giant store, the Walmart's on one side of the street and Giant's on the other. So we're in that area where Giant is located. Yeah.
And are those 2 businesses, are they both like, obviously you can purchase cigars there, but are they both lounges where you can sample the wares, so to speak?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we have indoor exemptions where there's not very many places that you can actually smoke indoors anymore. So,
right. Now you can't serve any other type of liquor or food or anything, right?
We don't. There are if liquor licenses are available, but they're very expensive. So to be able to turn around that volume of alcohol, you need to kind of justify that equation. But and there's some in the Clean Indoor Air Act, which allows us to smoke inside. There are some parameters that need to be met. 20% of your revenue has to come from tobacco sales alone. So if you start introducing alcohol and food, a lot of times these places become out of compliance,
right?
And they could actually lose their liquor license.
Wow!
Because there's so much volume, and there's a lot. The margin is a lot better in alcohol than it is in tobacco. Mm-hmm. So it's something you got to really weigh.
But
whether or not
the cigar industry itself is it's really still growing, isn't it?
I would say the last 2 years have been pretty benign, very flat.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a lot of other businesses during COVID, it was the second boom, the mini boom. First boom was like in the mid '90s when there was a magazine that came out called Cigar Aficionado,
mm-hmm.
and it brought in lots of celebrities, and they were on the cover. Wayne Gretzky, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Jordan, you name it, they were in there. And that's kind of cool. We might want to talk about some of those people. I think that's where John and those guys get excited, because I've met all those people, mm-hmm. and got to share some cigars, some dinners, and stuff like that. So, but I think back to Cigar Aficionado, that's kind of what, in '92, when that magazine was introduced by a guy by the name of Marvin Shankin. He also does Wine Spectator, Whiskey mm-hmm. Advocate. Yeah. So these are other magazines that you might be familiar with. I think that's really what kind of set the premium cigar world on fire. And it grew and grew. And then it kind of leveled out for a while. And then we had the second boom when COVID hit. And
so what was that? So obviously back in the 90s, it was a Cigar Aficionado.
Mm-hmm.
What spurred that second growth during COVID?
Everybody has to stay home.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't smoke a cigar at work. You can't have somebody here at the office,
So that's
firing
what
up.
it was.
So they were sitting at home on their deck. I had lawyers that would come in,
right.
They
working from home
on their computer, and they're home smoking cigars.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one guy that used to come in. He worked for McNeese Wallace, and I think he smoked maybe 2 or 3 cigars a week.
Mm-hmm.
during COVID, he was smoking 5 a day.
Were you guys able to stay open during?
We closed one day. I think it was the day after St. Patty's Day. I think, if I remember correctly, is when everything got shut down. So we closed that day and kind of like, all right, what are we gonna? We got to figure this out. So we quickly, just like a lot of the other restaurants and stuff like that, we came up with like a curbside service. You would call in, place your order. We would pull the order, process the payment over the phone, or if they wanted to do cash, we had a little table set up out front of the store. We would put their basket out there with their bag in it and a receipt, and they would come up, pull up, and they would take their order. So we did that for a while, and then we started.
So you never really closed, but for that one day.
One day.
So you were open, but not the same way.
Not the same way.
So when were you able to go back to having people come in and sit down and have a cigar?
If I remember correctly, I think in June they kind of lifted some of that, and there was some.
June of 2020.
Yes. Yeah. June 2020. And I think there were some restrictions on how many feet. So, like every 2 chairs we had to flip over, and they had to be at least 6 feet apart.
Right.
They couldn't get up and walk to the bathroom without a mask on, but when they sat in their chair, they were allowed to take their mask off and smoke a cigar. So that kind of limited some, a lot of people in there. Because we've had events where we've had 117 people in our stores, 120 people.
Right.
But obviously not during that time.
So when did you open Lemoyne? Was that your first location, and then the Harrisburg one was second?
Yes. Yeah.
And how long have you been in business?
In the cigar business?
Yeah.
I started in 92. I kind of saw this. I always enjoyed cigars. My grandfather smoked cigars, so I can remember as a little kid when we would go over to his house, that smell, I associated that with a good feeling. So whenever I smelt a cigar, I always enjoyed that.
Now, was he smoking like what you would describe today as a premium cigar? Or was he smoking, the
No, he was
Dutch Masters or whatever?
Yeah, he did like some the White Owls and the Garcia Vegas, and but he was an old Italian guy. So Perottis, the Nobles, which are a little dry cured cigar, were his go-to. I don't know. Can we swear on this? No, I won't. No.
He'll just bleep it out if it's too bad.
The one time I thought, for a Christmas gift, I'm going to buy him a box of cigars. And at the time, $5 for a cigar was insane.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy. So I bought him this box. I gave him to him on Christmas, and he goes, how much do these cost? And I said, well, that doesn't matter. And he goes, no, how much did it cost? And I said, well, they're $5 a piece. And he said, are you some kind of effing aristocrat? He couldn't comprehend that, cigars. Now he would be mortified today. I mean, our average cigar is about $12, $15 now. But
the guys like that. So I have a great, funny kind of comparable story, and it's about Dave Lenardi, and it was his dad. So his dad was really important in my life, and his dad was a great guy, state cop, and he liked Scotch.
Yeah.
And so he's turning 80. And I went out and bought him a bottle of like Johnny Walker Blue or something that, at that time was, whatever, $200 or $300.
Right.
And I couldn't wait to go give it to him. And so I go, and it's on his birthday. He's sitting on his back deck. I give him he opens up and he goes, what?
Yeah.
would you buy me this? I'm like, what? It's Scotch. You like Scotch? And he goes, you could have bought 2 cases of the Scotch that I drink for this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he was like upset at me because I not wasted the money, but you could have gotten a lot more volume.
Yeah.
So it was, more of a volume thing than a quality thing. But, it's the cigars that you have today, they're $12 on average for a reason, right?
Yeah. I mean, prices obviously with a lot of the inflationary factors over the past few years, fuel, fertilizer, and that stuff. So that's going to drive up those production costs in the countries that we get our cigars, which is predominantly Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican Republic. That's where most of the cigars come. But a lot of tobacco comes from Africa, Cameroon, Canary Islands, you name it. So the production costs have risen over the years, and I think that's really what's kind of driving the price lately. So every year there's some type of 5 to 10% price increase.
So do you have relationships with those companies or the individuals, like a Rocky Patel, so to speak?
Yep. It's a direct relationship.
Yeah. And do you ever get those guys to come here and do any events?
Oh yeah. Rocky's been here twice. I'm thinking Fuente's been here before. So some of the big cigar guys have been through here. Yeah.
And when they come in, they're like all your
it's a big draw. Yeah. It's some of the biggest revenue days we've had is when those guys come in. So yeah.
So how did you make that move from buying your grandfather a box of cigars that he probably was mad at you for buying, to actually getting into the business?
Yeah, I went to school for engineering.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you go?
I went to Lebanon Valley. I was on a 3-2 program, 3 at Lebanon Valley for BS, and then my engineering degree at Penn State. But I didn't finish. I was too eager to get out and get into the workforce. My grandfather was a contractor. My dad was a contractor. All my life, when you used to have those aptitude days in school, and they always said, hey, you're pretty good at math. You might want to think about engineering. As a kid, I'm like, I get to play with trains, not realizing what it was. But I knew what it was. But
I'm not sure I knew what it was until I went to college, and my roommate was an engineer, and I was like,
yeah, Paul,
you guys messing around?
Yeah. So I started. I had a brief. I've been in self-employed since I was 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a little stint with Marriott. I thought maybe I, might switch gears, and I left the hospitality world. It was very difficult, and especially in the food side. I mean, you're working 70, 80 hours a week, and it was a good salary. But my waitresses and waiters were making 10 times what I was making per hour.
Right.
Because you put a lot of hours.
So did you go from that engineering program at Penn State to starting your own?
No, I started construction company. Or if that was your question, construction business. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you started your own construction company.
Yep. Yeah. So
and what type of were you doing? Commercial construction, residential?
When I first started, it was pretty much just residential remodeling, and then I expanded into some commercial and industrial, light industrial. I did a lot of work for the Catholic Diocese, schools and churches. I built 23 homes. I did some residential stuff as well. E-Town College was a big customer of mine. I did some additions down there, built their dining hall. In fact, the last project I did was I built a bridge in E-Town for the college. So
I mean, it sounds like you were having some pretty good success.
Yeah, it was rolling along, and then the cigar thing popped up in the early '90s, and again, throughout that whole time, I still smoked cigars and occasionally, and I thought, hey, there's a lot of people that are getting into this, but there's nowhere really for somebody to keep their cigars. So I designed a humidor like a cabinet-sized humidor in 1992, and I took it to a trade show in '94 in Orlando, and they were very expensive because it was all hand built, and the smallest one I made was about $5,000, and the larger version was about $10,000. And so the sales were kind of slow on that for a consumer to be able to put that kind of money into a place to just store their cigars. So I didn't sell a lot of them, but I had, at the time when the boom was taking off, there was only one company in the world that was making a humidification device to humidify a cabinet. That's what a humidor is. It's a controlled environment that controls the temperature and the humidity. So I designed my own humidification because that company couldn't fulfill the amount of humidifiers that I needed. So in the following year, '95, people came and they were the same reluctance. I'm selling a few here and there, but they said, "Hey, where'd that humidification come from?" And I said, "Well, I made them for my humidor. So if you buy a humidor, you'll get one." And one guy said, "Well, can you make me, 24 of those?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'll give it a shot." So,
now, are you making these like in your basement, so to speak, or?
Well, I had a wood shop. I had a full wood shop, but when I started doing the humidification side of it, it just exploded. I was selling them all over the world, and I was like, I don't have a place to do this. So I rented a little warehouse space down in Middletown. A friend of mine had a drywall business there, and he had some extra space. So I brought in the guys that were on my framing crews or my carpenters and stuff like that. I taught them how to make these things. We set up an assembly line, a shipping department, and we just started making these things. And I literally sold thousands of them.
So you're making the humidification device,
Yep.
which goes in a humidor?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so that kind of really exploded. Now we're talking about 96, 97. And then the Chinese kind of, crept into the market, Korea.
Into the humidification market?
Humidors, accessories, anything to do with cigars.
Right.
So my material cost was their finished product.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, well, that game's over.
Right.
So there was a store that was on the West Shore. It was a friend of mine, Penn State grad. He was doing very well and kind of got a little sideways. I won't go down that road, but I tried to help him out. He kind of, pushed aside the help and ended up going away for a little bit. And so we didn't have a cigar store to go to anymore. So I've been in the business. I've manufactured humidors, humidifiers. I thought, well, let me just open a shop just so, me and my buddies still have a place to go smoke a cigar. So that was 98. So the first store, back to your original question, was in 98.
And it was at that location that you're in now?
The same plaza.
Yeah. So you've expanded probably.
Yeah, we were a couple doors down. Then we rented a second space right next to that, opened a lounge in there. Then we moved all the way up to the end, and then we rented 2 spaces and put a lounge and store up there. And now we're about ready to go through another renovation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Renovation or expansion or both?
Renovation right now. The lounge, we're going to close it down in May when the weather gets a little better. Guys are outside golfing, and it'll kind of free us up to be able to do some of that work and not interrupt, the flow of business is that bad. So.
And do you have a good, recurring clientele at both places that, come in? Because how many guys are allowed to smoke at home anymore?
Yeah, not many guys that I know
because they don't have the
filtration, the air cleaning,
system at home, and
we have all that stuff. That some guys have built these little man caves or little sheds that they'll kind of remodel and they'll put it like
outside of the house.
Yeah. So if you're really lucky, you can do it in the garage.
Right.
So they'll put the door up a little bit and maybe have a fan to blow it out, but. There's a lot of women that smoke too.
I was just going to say, we're saying guys, but in reality, there's a lot of women that smoke.
Yeah, and that was really big in the late '90s, early 2000s. I mean, Demi Moore was on the front of a Cigar Aficionado one time, with a big cigar, and it was very popular. We used to have a ladies' night. Mm-hmm. And now it seems like it's starting. That part's starting to grow again. We're seeing a lot of activity in the minority communities as well, which is very good and exciting. But as a industry overall, it's kind of just kind of a little level right now.
Yeah. So I was doing a little bit of research, and I wasn't sure if these were like global numbers or just in the United States, but it said that the industry right now was about 56 billion, and they felt that it could grow to 80 billion by like 2030.
Yeah, the markets that are really emerging is China.
Yeah,
I mean, China is exploding. Europe is was always known for kind of a smaller cigar, cigarillos, cigarettes, and so now that big large cigar, which was associated with the rich cats in America, is kind of spreading throughout the world. We import about 465 million cigars, premium cigars, a year in our industry.
And do we still have the embargo with Cuba?
We
right?
do, yeah.
So that
there are some companies that are not allowed to say, but they do still use Cuban tobacco in some of their blends. But as a country, we still do not have any trade.
Is that do you think that Cuban cigars were the best, or are they just considered like
It's a forbidden fruit.
It's a forbidden fruit, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't get them, so that's why they're the best.
That's why they're the best. But they do have some really good quality. I think when they used to be subsidized by Russia, they had a lot of money. They had fertilizer, farm equipment. But when Russia pulled out, they were kind of left on their own. So I think there was a decline in quality. And there's such a demand for Cuban cigars that they really kind of hurry the process a little bit. And I think that hurts their quality overall. I think right now some of the best cigars in the world are coming out of Nicaragua, Dominican Republic.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Honduras.
Why not?
Yeah. Well, all those people were exiled when Castro took over in the 50s. So they all took their seeds and they went to these other countries. And now these guys, their kids and their grandkids are now running these companies. And they have PhDs in agriculture. They're very intelligent. They're scientists. They have endless resources. So I think, that goes in hand with the quality of the premium cigars.
So is the seed the most important thing, or is it the soil, or the way that they fertilize, or the way that they grow, or the climate? Like, what's the most important thing in the?
It's all of the above. The seeds are like, they're a period at the end of a sentence. That's how small they are. You can fit about 10,000 seeds into a thimble. That's how small they are. So they were able to take those, and then when they started growing them in these other countries, obviously they're replicating that seed. So everything you're smoking today is pretty much Cuban seed born. But all those things that you mentioned, the climate, that's why that Caribbean basin is very good. The cloud cover, the sunlight, the temperature obviously all play a big part. The rain, the amount of rain. Most of the product or all of the premium cigar side, there's nothing added to it. It's just tobacco and fermented tobacco.
And are like the cigars that you get from Nicaragua or whatever other place, Dominican, Honduras.
Yeah.
Are they machine rolled, hand rolled, or
all handmade?
All handmade.
Yeah. So they say that one cigar, like you walk into my store, everything we sell, premium cigar, hand rolled cigars.
Yeah.
One cigar is touched by about 300 different people till it becomes sitting in our store on a shelf.
So
ready to sell.
Is that from seed to delivery?
Absolutely. Yep.
And so it sounds like a lot of that process is still fairly manual.
All manual.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no machinery. Other than agricultural machinery, plows to turn the ground and that kind of stuff, but everything's done by hand.
The leaves
cultivated by hand.
Yeah. And do you go down and see the plants from the places that are supplying you?
Yeah. We've taken groups of customers down to see the process. It started probably in the early 2000s where people in the industry, retailers started going, and it was kind of, it had some issues and political issues in Nicaragua that you had to be careful with, and we always went with bodyguards and that kind of stuff. So, but over the years, it's gotten a little bit more touristy, and they realized what the premium cigar industry is doing for that part of the world. So they're very welcoming. It's a great place to go. So now that COVID's gone, and they stopped all those kind of trips and consumer trips, they're starting those back up again. So I look forward to taking some customers down.
And are you involved in any associations? Cigar industry associations.
The main one is the Premium Cigar Association, and I actually have 4 weeks left as the ex officio, ex-president. So it was a 15-year run where I was the president. Our headquarters is in D.C., and we kind of spearheaded the advocacy, the education for retailers. In fact, that was our mission statement. We're in the business to make retailers better retailers. How to understand their business, give them best practices, software, anything to run a retail business in our industry. But the advocacy was the big one. I was on our legal team. Originally, I was the only non-lawyer on that team. And it was funny, I used to be on these phone calls with these lawyers from D.C., ex-White House attorneys, and they would be talking about all these legal precedent. And I'm sitting there on a Zoom call, And I'm over here on my laptop looking up this case law, like, oh, yeah, I could speak to it, intelligently, but that kid now, I could probably pass a couple bars. So, so I was on our legal team, and obviously we advocate for the industry, and we were under with the Tobacco Control Act, which Obama signed into law. Gave the FDA the authority to kind of regulate tobacco however they saw fit.
So prior to that, what was the regulatory structure?
Not much of any. Yeah, I mean, cigarettes did.
Yeah,
obviously they. And that's a nuance that I don't think a lot of people understand when you talk. I'll digress here just for a second. Cigarettes have other constituents other than tobacco. There's up to 80 or 90 different constituents other than tobacco that go into a cigarette. In fact, I think it was 80 billion gallons of ammonia was purchased by the cigarette industry, and that's the binder that scientifically attaches nicotine at a cellular level to addict you.
Wow.
When it comes to premium cigars, we do the exact opposite. We ferment the tobacco to drive the ammonia out. That's why, like, I haven't had a cigar in 3 or 4 days, not because, any forethought. It was just, I don't need to.
Right.
I've just been so busy, just haven't had time to sit down.
So you don't get addicted to the nicotine,
right? Even
like
though there's
with a cigarette, there's
exactly because you don't have
tobacco,
that.
Right?
Yeah, you don't have
But
that
you don't have
binder,
binder,
that ammonia binder.
So are cigarettes? I didn't realize that. Are cigarettes like in Europe? Are they the same way?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I mean, all the Altria and Philip Morris.
Yeah.
It's all their products, the same product. There was a kind of a renaissance in that industry a few years ago where they came out with like an supposedly all natural cigar, but they're still retardants because you set a cigarette down. Used to be that it kept burning, but they started adding something in it to make it go out so that people didn't fall asleep with a cigarette and light their house on fire.
Well, that's a good objective, but then
but then you're inhaling that
right.
that constituent, whatever that is. So, yeah.
So so the lobbying efforts now. So you said you were president of that organization for 15 years. Were you termed out at that point, or?
Yeah.
Or you just got tired of
No, I was termed out.
Yeah.
It's a 3-year term on the board, and then it was a 12-year executive run. And
various positions, or
yeah,
were
you start
okay.
out as secretary, treasurer, first vice president, second vice president, and president.
Got it.
And I also sit on another board, which is the Tobacco Association of America, which is the top 80 stores in the world. Or part of that association, so I sit on that board as well. But it's not as involved in the advocacy or the legal part, as the PCA is.
Who are you lobbying? The FDA or
everybody from the administration? I've been with presidents. In fact, there's a picture on Miyazaki with President Trump from last year out in Vegas. He happened to be across the street at a fundraiser, and
I was thinking that
he doesn't smoke.
I wouldn't think so.
His boy does, though. Both his boys do.
Oh, really?
And we've had numerous meetings with those guys to help us out. But yeah, back to that advocating for the industry. So the FDA regulated cigarettes and chewing tobacco, and it was all for very good reason to keep tobacco out of the hands of kids. Nobody wants to see that.
Right.
Even cigars. So. And that was never an issue. I mean, the average purchaser of our products is 42 years old. The household median income is about 20 grand higher than the normal, just because of the nature of the product, the cost of the product. But the FDA, being a federal bureaucracy, just like other bureaucracies, they want to take as much power as they can. And so they came out and then deemed a rule on cigars, and then we had to sue the FDA. And that's funny. I've been on the phone all morning answering texts where we've won 3 times, and we just won. They have one more shot at it if they want to, and that's the Supreme Court. So we won in the appellate court in D.C. It looks like they're done. They want to throw in the towel. So hopefully, as long as we have a friendly administration. And that's with any bureaucracy, even in the banking industry and stuff like that. I mean, they have no accountability, no responsibility. They weren't voted, so it's basically just an extension of whatever the executive branch who's ever sitting in that house and what they want to do.
Yeah. So I love all the attacks now on what they're trying to do with Doge, because they're saying that the employees that are doing that they weren't elected.
Yeah.
But they're getting to look at your Social Security information, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, well, how many people do you think have access to your Social Security information, your tax returns?
Yeah.
There's tens of thousands of unelected people that are looking at them every day.
Yeah.
So
it's like the CTA, the Corporate Transparency Act.
Right.
And the BOI, business ownership. The Treasury Department wants to know what my Social Security number is. You gave me the Social Security number. You should know. You know what
Right.
it is, right?
Right.
But I guess that's on hold. That's kind of tied up in litigation right now.
So do you think that the regulatory environment now going forward is going to be better than, same as, or worse than last?
It's going to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's Trump's whole thing. I think he said for every new regulation, I think he said I want 10 taken off the books.
Right.
And
yeah, it's easy to say stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a little harder to do it. Sometimes
Absolutely,
it's like, trying to get a horse back into the barn. It's not that easy.
Yeah. But there is some legal precedent now, though.
Mm-hmm.
The ruling that gave bureaucracy the authority to regulate however they seem fit was the Chevron deference.
Mm-hmm.
And that was overturned in July. So the Supreme Court said that the regulatory agencies don't have that authority. So it's made it a little bit easier to kind of peel back some of those very onerous regulations that shouldn't be there. So,
man, as far as I know, there's no regulatory agency that's run by anyone that was elected.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And certainly none of the employees of those regulatory agencies are, I don't care what business, what industry they're regulating.
Yeah.
They're all unelected.
Yeah.
And they're all dealing with our information.
I mean, you look right now with some of Trump's picks. HHS was Bobby Kennedy.
Right.
I mean, he wasn't elected. Trump appointed him. Now he's the head of the FDA now. HHS is over top of the FDA.
Right.
So.
And just for the record, we love our regulators, right?
Oh yeah. We want to do the right thing.
Just in case any of you are listening, anyone from the FDIC or the Federal Reserve or the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities, we love them all.
Yeah.
And I'd say that like jokingly, but not jokingly really. I mean, there's a real reason why we're regulated.
Sure.
And we're not regulated because of the loans we make.
Right.
We're regulated because of the deposits we hold.
Yeah.
Because we're holding other people's money, and then we're lending that money out theoretically, and so they have to make sure that we know what we're doing. And so I'm all for it, because I think that the essence of this business is our ability to have people's deposits.
Yeah.
So if it takes the government looking at us and looking at what we're doing, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's a noble thing to be able to hold people's deposits.
Right. Absolutely.
So what do you think is the future for the business? Like, what are the challenges that you have? Not just your own business, but the industry as a whole.
Well, I think, I mean, in the immediate or the microeconomic situation right now, I think with interest rates a little bit higher, I think there's still some inflationary things that are hitting people that are going to affect. I mean, nobody needs.
Did you go to the grocery store?
Oh my God! I just went last night. I bought like a little quiche to pop in the oven for tonight's dinner. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? But it's just crazy.
Whether you're going to like a pharmacy to get toiletries type of stuff, or you're going to a grocery store to get like not big orders, but then you see the final tab and it's like, wow.
Yeah, that has to be the last. I keep very good track of our numbers, and this past 2 months have probably been the worst 2 months in the last 6 years.
from sales.
Sales.
Yeah.
Now we had
And
a little bit
do you
colder.
do you think that that's okay? But it's always cold.
Well, the last two winters have
January,
been
February.
pretty mild. I can't remember last year. I think there were a couple days in February people were out playing golf. So
Yeah, I mean, I saw people playing golf over the weekend.
Yeah,
But, not that much, but
but it definitely, like I said, this is purely discretionary
yeah,
spending. So, if the choice is to buy that,
Buy
$9
eggs.
eggs, in fact, I took a picture on my wife the other day of a little chicken coop. I said, I think we need to get some chickens.
right. Well, I mean, I think the egg costs are the way they are because I think some decisions they made around, bird flu.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Disposing of, hens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I heard it.
That's coming back to, pardon the pun, that's coming back to roost.
Yeah, exactly. I heard this morning Turkey offered to send 420 million eggs to the U.S. to help, with our egg shortage, and I didn't realize.
In exchange for what?
Well, they said that's a day and a half's worth of eggs in the U.S.
Wow,
420 million. So I don't know how many are consumed, but it's a lot.
You're
talking the B word. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you feel that the economy? I mean, obviously, we've all been dealing with inflation over the last, really 4 years. Do you think that is what's holding back your sales right now? Just
that's why I use the term micro. It's such a small window. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a combination of the weather and the economy. So, coming into the end of March is usually when things really start to heat up for us, especially people getting out doing yard work, golfing, sitting on their deck, going on vacations. All those things are what drives. That's our season in the Northeast is in the summer and in the Christmas holidays.
Yeah. Do you think that anyone? I mean, I'm sure that it's kind of like a talk show every day around your place, right? People come in, they have a cigar, they're talking to each other. Politics probably come up, the economy probably comes up. So, what are those conversations like today when you guys are sitting around? Do people seem more concerned, or, I'm sure that you have liberals and conservatives that come into your place.
Yeah.
And all the liberals were probably distraught back in November, and all the conservatives were happy. But now that we're a few months away from that election, do you think that people feel generally good, or do you think people have concerns?
Well, I think the rhetoric is definitely tamed down,
Mm-hmm.
obviously since November. But I always get nervous that time of year. Like I try to be very apolitical, even though I do have a certain lean. But it's just not good for business. We want to appeal to everybody.
Sure.
But I think the rhetoric is tamed down. But I still think that there is some on the liberal side that are very upset, with the direction of the country and Doge, and then the guys on the right are over there doing jumping jacks. Very excited about what they're seeing. So, but I mean, you hit the nail on the head. We have Supreme Court justices, you name them, Mike Aiken, Dave Freed, to people that were convicted of crime sitting next to each other, but they have a thing in common, and it's a cigar. So they'll talk sports, they'll talk politics, and it's a place. Firemen, we got doctors, which is one of the things we use in our lobbying down in D.C. We've taken FDA's own studies, and the mortality rate of a premium cigar smoker is 2 years longer than a non-smoker.
Really?
Yeah. Now we don't.
You think that that's because while they're smoking a cigar, they're relaxing, and it's.
We like to think that that's what it is, but obviously they're more affluent, so they're going to have better health care.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to take better care of their own health.
So you're saying that a premium cigar smoker lives 2 years longer than
a non-smoker.
A non-smoker, but not like based upon whatever their economic status is in life.
Well,
but the premium cigar smokers would tend to be a little wealthier.
It probably, I mean, you could argue that it's the economic level of their economic status that provides them better health care.
Yeah.
But there is also the thought that, stress obviously raises cortisol in the body, which is what causes all that inflammation, heart disease, everything, all disease is inflammatory, right? So cortisol plays a big part of that. So if there's something you can do to lower that cortisol level, and smoking a good cigar, relaxing, having a scotch.
How else? And we're not advocating for any of those things. But how else do you relax, other than the time that you spend at your own place with your own people and your own customers, and entering into those conversations, whether it's about sports or which could be that could be a good or bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like if everyone's talking about the Eagles and you don't like the Eagles, and that could be stressful.
Go Birds, that's all I hear every day, 10 times a day. But no, for me personally, I like to play golf. My wife and I have a place down south that we can have plenty of golf. So we like to spend as much time as we can there, and hopefully more and more as we get older.
Real far south, like Florida type?
South Carolina. Hilton Head, so that's kind of like a little golf mecca there.
So do you only go down there together, or do you does she go down sometimes on her own and you come down on weekends? Or
she doesn't like to go down on her own, but I do occasionally. If I have some work that needs to be done, or something like that, I'll go down and take care of the place. So but we try and go down together as much as we can.
Do you have any kids?
We have 3.
Yeah.
The oldest
I say kids,
the oldest, he'll be 28. He's married. He's now in the industry. He went to Penn State grad and got a degree in biology, and in October of 19 went to North Carolina to work for a biotech firm or biology company. I can't remember the name of the company, but that a couple months before COVID. He's the low man on the totem pole, so he was quickly let go. And his girlfriend at the time was Clemson grad, and she got a job in North Carolina as well. They were in the Raleigh area. So they were kind of waiting until COVID got over, and then he got a job with Invisalign. He moved back up here, and now he works in the cigar industry with me. Not
really?
With my company, but he works for one of my manufacturing partners.
Nice.
That we purchase cigars. So, but they're trying to get back down to the Carolinas. They really like it down there, so they've been
from a weather standpoint. Or
weather, just the the vibe, I guess.
It seems like coming from Pennsylvania, like in our age group, people felt that work all your life and then get a place down south and retire.
Mm-hmm.
But the younger folks, they're like ready to move down there. Ready to, they get out of school, going down to Florida or Tampa Bay, somewhere in Tampa.
I was just saying that the other day. These kids today, the cost of weddings, like they got married in September, and the amount of money that's spent on a wedding, is just foreign to me, And
I don't even want to ask, because
I got 2 daughters yet too, and one of them just got engaged. The middle one, she's another Penn State grad.
I'm trying to think about ways to incentivize them not to have
Well, I made that offer.
Yeah.
That's just. But
so my thought was always like saying, you can have this in cash, or I pay for your wedding.
That's the offer on the table right now.
What are they going to do?
They like that offer, actually. Yeah. Now, my son, they wanted to go the traditional, the big wedding and all that stuff, which is fine, but they're both very driven. They both have very good jobs, so they're going to be okay. They went to South Africa on a safari for their honeymoon. Back in our day when we got married, you might be able to get to Wildwood for a weekend.
Yeah, but I think I'm thinking about saying to my daughters, who I think they listen to the show. So when I die, here's how much you're going to get in a trust fund. But that'll be reduced by things that you make me spend on you from now until then. Yeah. So you have a wedding and you want to...
It comes off the bottom line?
Yeah, maybe we'll set a baseline. Yeah. So, we'll agree to pay this and it won't come off that. But anything over that gets It's taken out of there.
That'd be good.
You like that idea?
I like it. Yeah.
I mean, because you should, pay for something.
Yeah.
That's your daughter, but
Yeah.
I'm not the wedding industry is a whole different kettle of fish, and we've got some, good friends and customers that are in that business, and so I'm not trying to disparage that, but
no, it's wonderful.
Weddings have gotten out of control.
Yeah. Well, I have one of my board members. She just rolled on to the executive committee. I don't want to mention her name, but her daughter got married, and they did it in Scotland in a castle. And I said, I got to know. I said, do you mind? And she goes, no, not at all. She said it was $350,000. I was like, what? Now I forget how many.
Did she say it was terrible?
Oh, she loved
just in
it.
case any of my daughters are listening.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible.
Is there?
You don't want to do that.
It was a waste of money.
Cold, windy.
Yeah. So I my perception was always that these destination weddings were a way to kind of put a little bit of the cost of the wedding onto your guests, right? Because if you have your wedding at like not Hawaii necessarily, I've never heard of anyone doing that, but the Dominican Republic or Mexico or whatever, you go to a resort, don't you negotiate with them and say, if I deliver 100
X amount of people,
50
right?
rooms to you, then you give me a good deal on that. That's got to be the way it goes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I'll explore. But so, what lessons did you learn in the contracting business that you've been able to carry with you in this business? Now, you were in the contracting business. Sound like you had a lot of success, and then you pivoted into this. Did you immediately get out of that? Did you say, "All right, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do that," or did you transition and run both for a while? And
I did, but it was very rapidly. I mean, because we were right in the middle of that boom, and it was everything I had to manage a business. I mean, that was new to me.
Did you think when you were getting into the cigar business that you would stop?
No,
the contracting business.
Absolutely not. I just assumed it was just going to be, kind of a little hobby thing. A place where I'd be able to sell some cigars and actually generate enough revenue to keep the place open and just have some buddies that come and hang out. And then it just it overtook the construction business.
And have you been able to achieve everything you want to achieve in this business? Supporting your family and doing all the things that you and your wife want to do?
Absolutely, yeah. I still look for new opportunities.
Yeah.
There was one that I just tried to purchase down in South Carolina. Actually, it was 10 minutes outside of Hilton Head. It was
like an existing business.
An existing business. They had a bar. They had a liquor license, a restaurant. I felt it was a little underperforming on the food and liquor side, and I thought, there's some growth here. And it would have been a good opportunity for me to introduce my son down there, maybe if he wanted to move back into the Carolinas. And, here would be a perfect place for him to GM, that I wouldn't have to be there 24/7. But that didn't, I think another company came in and snatched it up. But I'm always looking for that. There's another one I'm actually looking at right now as well. This is on the island, so even be a little bit closer. But there's still definitely some opportunities for growth. I'm looking at that, right now with some of the things we need. We're going to redo our website, our whole accounting process. I'm trying to redo as we speak. Banking, I mean, that's kind of why my name popped up on the radar a little bit with you guys. I got to give you props on it. It kind of reminds me of a small town bank that I was accustomed with when I grew up. Like when I was, I think 17 or 18 years old, I went to Farmers Bank and Trust in Rutherford was my bank. And there was a lady there. I think her name was Betty Updegrove. If I remember. She was the manager. And I went to borrow money to buy a truck, Toyota pickup truck. And she said, do you have we went down and sat across the desk. She goes, do you have a job? And I said, yeah. She goes, where do you work? Told her. She goes, how much do you make? I told her. She goes, all right, I know your dad. All right, you're good.
That's the way things were done back then.
Yeah, and then it turned into, I think, Dolphin Deposit, then Waypoint, then Sovereign, and Santander. I'm probably missing a couple in there. But I get that same feel like when I go into your branches. I deal with Seihan on Dairy Street.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the closest to the Harrisburg store, so it's easy for me to get change and stuff like that. But you have that same kind of feeling. And some of the people that we know mutually have told me, like, they were in a pinch, and again, I don't know if we proper to say names, but they gave you a call over the weekend, and you had it taken care of.
Well, and that's what, like, I've always insisted that this business is. You get a lot. There's like bad names for bankers, right? Mm-hmm. Bankers hours, fat cat bankers, et cetera. But I've always felt that there's a tremendous nobility in this business because we are helping people out in the pinch, and we are helping people start businesses or grow businesses or, plan for their retirement or buy a house or, a car or a vacation home, whatever. And, it's like, Greg, that's, a lot of what fuels me. And, last week we were talking a lot about, that whole COVID time period in PPP and the way that this company reacted to that and some of the things that we did during that time period. And it wasn't for gain for this company. It was what we were trying to do to stabilize the communities that we operate within. And it ended up being a really good demonstration of that there are plenty of financial institutions in the country, whether they're banks or credit unions. And there's literally a financial institution for anyone and everyone. I don't care how rich or poor you are or, what your ethnic background is or anything. There's a financial institution for you. But this financial institution is for guys like you, owner managed, local businesses. We're not able to do like a multinational company, but there are banks for them.
Yeah.
And, but we're really good at this.
Yeah.
The person who we know shops at the same places that we shop at and employs some of the people that have the, same type of zip codes that we do and has customers that, are our customers too. So that's kind of the fun part of what we do.
Yeah.
So, but, back to that, I know that you learned some lessons when you were doing the contracting. How much more did you have to learn in starting the cigar company?
Well, for me, it was.
I mean, you got to make payroll in both of them, and you got to hire people.
That kind of stuff.
Right.
The P&L and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the accounting process. That's all similar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, instead of selling an actual product, we're selling a service when you're in construction, and actually, it's partially a product too, a finished product, a home or an addition, that kind of thing. But so there was a lot of similarities, and I didn't. Maybe it was just being naive, because that wasn't my forte. I wasn't a business guy. I never had economics classes. It was always math and science for me. But numbers come easy. I can kind of look down and I can figure numbers out. And so it wasn't. It was just dealing with a higher volume of consumers. I mean, and when I'm doing a project or when I was doing a construction project, I'm dealing with maybe a husband and wife.
One at a time.
At a time. Yeah. Now it's, 120, 150 people come in each one of those locations every day.
Mm-hmm.
So you're dealing with lots of people. And that was probably the only thing. I think you're kind of that local barber shop or bartender. People want to talk to you. They want to.
Right.
And they don't realize, you got, especially when I'm trying to run an association in D.C. from here, trying to run 2 stores, 15 employees, so there's a lot of dynamics going on, and people they just see you as, hey, why don't you sit down and smoke a cigar with me? I'm like, hey, you came into my work.
Right.
This is what I'm thinking. I don't come in when you're sitting at the office and pull out a deck card, say, hey, let's play cards. It's so that was probably the only thing I really had to kind of learn how to balance and juggle.
Just the retail aspect of it.
Yeah,
versus...
the retail. Yep. Yeah. And the amount of consumers, the amount of customers that you're dealing with, and other than that, it's just a learning curve and different business, practices that, you want to keep people happy. You want to reward them. You want to have a rewards program that they feel appreciated, and they're getting the best deal that you can provide them. In today's world, Amazon world, you can literally get any product you want, a day or two on your front doorstep. Yeah. So what?
I had to buy, a reader, a Nook.
Yeah.
Right. So I left mine on a plane actually. So I went to Barnes & Noble to buy one. They only had one model at the Barnes & Noble. It wasn't the one I wanted.
Yeah.
So walking out of the store, I get on Amazon, find the one that I want, order it. They delivered it the next day.
Man.
So it's like, well, why am I coming in here? So that's got to be a challenge for now. Can people go on Amazon and buy cigars? I'm sure they can, but they can't sit down and,
Yeah, no, we're fortunate there. There's where, back to your thing where we like our regulators. There's where regulation's good because
they can't do that.
They can't do that. Right. Now, there are online retailers that will deliver to you, but they have to age verify. They have to do everything I have to do to make a sale, to make sure that person is over the age of 21.
Over the age of 21. That's
yeah. That was one of the things that the FDA did when they started to regulate us, which wasn't a bad thing, I don't think. We didn't really fight it. We kind of supported it actually. And then now that we've won our law case, that's actually been peeled back on a federal level, but all the states adopted that 21-year age. So we're obviously we're not going to fight that at the state level. It'll just be too onerous, too costly.
So we're in the same age group, obviously.
Yeah.
And, a lot of my contemporaries, they're talking about retirement. I don't think that way. I want to work as long as I can.
Yep.
What about you?
You're going to have to take me out feet first. Yeah. It's just, that's what I live for. My wife's talking about retirement. She works for UPMC and rightfully so. She's put in had a long career and done very well. But as long as I can talk and breathe and walk into the store, I'm going to do it. And
have enough time to get down south and
play some golf. And that's another great thing with modern technology. And updating software systems and POS systems and stuff like that. I can log in anywhere.
Right.
If I have a problem in a store, I can jump on the computer, log in, fix it for them. So I can run it from there.
And do you think, like, even if at some point you back down a little bit on the the day-to-day operations of the business, you stay involved in that association?
Oh, yeah.
Even though I know you're ex officio now, but you're still involved, right?
Oh yeah. In fact, this contract that our trade show is next month. It's actually 4 weeks down in New Orleans. New Orleans and Las Vegas is pretty much the only two places we can go to host that many people and be allowed to smoke. So that'll be the last contract that I negotiated when I was president. So the new guy has everything moving forward. So, yeah. So
what other avocations do you have? Like, what would make you want to retire? Obviously, you said you play golf, but what else? What else are you doing in your free time?
I like to hunt, like to fish. We have a place upstate that snowmobiling, but that's been kind of rough the last couple of years. In fact, I just took
just because there's not enough snow.
Not snow, and I don't have time to run in New York.
A lot of wind. It's like windy every day here.
Yeah, but there's no number of things, or there's so many number of things. I like to play music. I play guitar. Like I mentioned, the golf thing, hiking, hunting, fishing. There's no shortage of things I could do. So as I wind down. So I hope at some point that I can find somebody that like to operate or act as a GM. And if it's not my son or somebody in the family, somebody to come in and kind of run the day-to-day stuff.
Right.
And then I'm just going to answer the high-level questions, Yeah, hopefully.
And sounds like you do have a lot of avocations that you can spend your time on. I don't.
Oh yeah.
Grandkids at some point. I love to fish, but I'm not an avid fisherman.
Yeah. but I'll do it.
Yeah.
Saltwater fishing. I love getting out in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you do you fly? Are you a pilot?
Yeah, I learned how to fly helicopters. In fact, a good friend we were talking about earlier, we have a mutual buddy, and he was a pilot and an instructor. Flew for the Attorney General, flew for the governor. I can't remember. He had some crazy number of hours fixed wing and helicopter. And I went to him one day. I said, "Hey, his name's Dan." I said, "Dan, I'd really like to have you, teach me how to fly." And he goes, "What do you want to fly for?" And I said, "I'm just tired of flying commercial. I'd like to be able to, zip back and forth to our place down south. Kind of a pipe dream, but." And he goes, "I want you to learn helicopter first." He said, "If you learn a helicopter, you can fly anything."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "All right, yeah, I'll do it." So he took me up, taught me how to fly. I was ready to solo in about 12 hours.
Wow.
And normally about 20 hours you can solo, but it came pretty easy to me, and he was a great teacher. I think.
So when did you get that license to be able to?
Well, he unfortunately he passed.
Hmm.
I don't know. Did you know Dan Schiavone?
I did. Yeah.
So I didn't.
Not real well, but
yeah. So he passed, and I didn't complete it.
Oh,
but
okay.
I mean, it's still there. I have my book. I got my logs and stuff like that. If I ever decide to go back, I mean, it wasn't practical to do helicopter from here to Hilton Head.
I think helicopter from here to Philly.
Yeah.
Here to New Jersey.
Yeah.
I think about that often.
Yeah.
I'm on the turnpike all the time.
Yeah, for you. I mean, you got how many locations? 40-ish?
When we get done with this acquisition or merger that we're in the middle of right now, we'll end up with just about 60.
60.
Well, 60 retail.
Yeah.
But, probably another 10 or 15 other facilities, and we're in 20 some different counties between Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So it's a lot different footprint today than it was 16 years ago when I first got here.
Yeah.
I could go see the entire footprint in a day.
Right.
And spend time at each place.
Yeah.
Now it takes, and we do. We go out in November and December and do tours, and it's now it takes a week or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Helicopter would be perfect.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe I'll go back and finish. I'll fly for you guys.
Yeah, there you go. That'd be a good post retirement job. But so you got that, and were you a firearms instructor?
Yeah, I did.
Or are you still doing that?
Did a little bit of that. Yeah, I went through the NRA. I used to shoot competitive matches, and then I taught some NRA classes.
Handgun, rifle, or
handgun? Mostly handgun. Yeah. How to handle a firearm, the legal, ramifications. God forbid you would have to use it. People don't take that into consideration. There's a lot of, it's a heavy legal lift if God forbid you'd ever have to use it. And so we would bring in lawyers and state police to kind of teach the legal aspect. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to do that anymore. That was something I really enjoyed doing too, with shooting sports and stuff like that. I do some sporting clays. That's still fun. It's like walking. That's like golf with a shotgun. I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to do that, but that's
sporting clays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm terrible at it, but
no, you don't have to be good. It's just fun. We get out, you smoke a cigar, put the cigar down, take your couple of shots, pick up, walk the next station. So, yeah, did that as well. Yeah, for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that you can have golf outings to entertain customers, and 4 or 5 hours, but you can also do that.
Yeah,
to entertain customers. A lot of people that would rather do a couple hours of sporting clays than 5 hours on a golf course.
Just did an event down in again South Carolina, right outside of Hilton Head. Tommy Tuberville did he's a senator, former Auburn football coach. You probably remember him, right?
I do. Yeah.
He did a fundraiser, and it was a whole weekend. So we did a cigar night Friday, and then we had a pheasant shoot on Saturday.
Wow.
And if you didn't want to participate in the pheasant shoot, you could go play golf, and then there was a golf outing on Sunday. So it was a full weekend. But a lot of political events or fundraisers are done, in sporting clays courses and stuff.
I'm afraid to do that. Like if during our golf outing week, no. If I said, you could either play golf or go, wouldn't necessarily be pheasant hunting. I don't even think there's pheasant hunting still a thing in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but it's all pretty much farmed.
Yeah. I think more people might take it than we wouldn't have anyone with the golf course. But there's a lot of the guys that come to the golf outing, the celebrities.
Yeah.
They're really in the hunting.
Oh yeah. A lot of those guys are cigar guys. Ron Jaworski, I saw him at your one last year. There's a picture. I got a picture of him and I up in New York in the Grand Havana room one night. We were doing a fundraiser for prostate cancer. It was called A Night to Remember, and then de Blasio put the kibosh to that. But that was a long time. I can't remember how many. I think $20-some million that they raised for prostate cancer doing that event year over year. Michael Milken was one of the hosts. Rudy Giuliani, Rush Limbaugh was there, always there. But I can remember the first one I went to. We walked in, and it was at the Four Seasons. There was a bar, and I walked over, and it was just whatever you wanted to drink. And so I got like a scotch. It was a Balvenie 12, something, that you can get here easily. It's not that crazy expensive. Michael Milken walks over and stand there beside me, and he said, give me a Macallan 25, which if you know scotch, it's like...
I do know Macallan 25.
Yeah. And I said, sir, are we allowed to get... He goes, you can drink anything you want, son. And I was like, I gave the bartender the Balvenie back. I said, give me some Macallan 25.
So a Macallan 25, used to be back in like the 2005 area, to buy a bottle of it at a liquor store, it was like $300.
Yeah.
$250 to $300.
Yeah.
Now it's like, like well over $1,000.
Yeah, my favorite was the Balvenie 17. It came like in a kind of a maroon colored can, and you can't get it anymore. They don't make that one anymore, but that's about $1,000 a bottle now, if you can find it.
Right.
I mean, it's all secondary
if
market.
You can find it.
That's
which
the
is
thing.
Even, like you can't just go to a run-of-the-mill liquor store and buy again, back in 2004 or 5, you could.
Yeah.
Now you can't.
Yeah.
You got to go to one of the specialty stores.
Yep, absolutely.
And then they have it under lock and key.
Yeah.
And I think they always had it behind the counter, but
yeah, always had to ask for it.
Yeah, it was nothing quite like sitting on your deck on a nice summer evening with a glass of Macallan 25 and a Anniversario cigar.
Oh, do you like cigars?
Not as much anymore.
Yeah.
First of all, I shouldn't say that. I do like cigars. Love them. I just don't smoke as much now as I used to when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of it's timing issue. But we were talking about some mutual friends earlier, but that's one of the great things about summer, like John Sutnak and Dave
Sutnak, he'll smoke a cigar.
And Lenardi and those guys will all get together at somebody's fire pit, and there's always a little scotch, a little bourbon.
Well, do you come to the golf tournament? I know that you're a supplier for it, but
I did for the twice for the night before. Unfortunately, I think both of the days or something I was unable to play because
the big thing, it's not necessarily the golf tournament itself.
Yeah.
It's that party, the Wednesday night party.
Yep. Got to meet quite a few characters that night. Yeah.
Well, a lot of those guys are like cigar aficionados, but they're also share a lot of other things that you like.
Yeah.
I think like Greg Lloyd.
Yeah.
Former All-Pro with the Steelers.
Jim McMahon was I don't know if he still does, but he was a cigar guy. And I saw him there one night.
Yeah. So when he was there 1 year.
Yeah.
And we'd love to get him back, by the way, but he was there 1 year. And I know that he was out there, during the cigar party, but I'm not sure that he was smoking cigars as much.
He was on crutches that night. I saw him.
He was. Yeah. He had an ankle issue.
Yeah.
That I don't know that he got rectified or not, but yeah, he was in pretty bad shape.
Yeah.
But what an interesting guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy that you saw playing for the Bears back in the mid '80s or the Eagles, a few years later, that's the same guy.
Yeah.
Like he was, that wasn't a shtick or anything. He's
Right. Yeah.
he's fun, loving, fun guy that was a little bit nutty in
Yeah.
a good way.
Yeah. Yep.
But you could sit down with those guys like a Greg Lloyd and smoke a cigar with him, talk about scotch, talk about hunting, talk about
Mm-hmm.
just about anything else. I mean, he does like wild boar hunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which he's trying to talk Zamponi into going down with him.
Well, that would be fun. I hadn't tried that yet, but yeah, I'd do some out west hunting, So yeah, that would be another thing. Like fly fishing would be great to learn.
So you fish, but not fly fish.
I do fly fish, but I'm not. There was a guy that is famous in the fly fishing world. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Clouser minnow.
No.
Okay, that's it's a guy that actually lives right here in central Pennsylvania, and it's world known. It's called the Clouser minnow, and his son used to work for my dad when my dad had a construction business. His name was Bob Clouser. So he actually made me my first fly rod, and so I took a couple lessons and went out. But it's just that's another thing that it's a time consuming. You got to have time. And when you're raising 3 kids, running a business, running an association in DC, I mean.
Is Clouser affiliated with any type of business in the area? I know there's that place down in Boiling Springs that.
Yeah, no, I don't think he does guide. He did. I don't know if he still does. He might be kind of up there in age now, but he had a guide service on the river where he would take people out and teach them how to fly fish and take them to the place, the hot spots to catch walleye or catch smallmouth in the river.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, listen, man, thanks for coming in today.
That was a pleasure. Yeah,
good to get to know you a little bit, and we love your business.
Yeah.
And wish you all the best, and hopefully
we can expand that a little bit more. That's going to be part of this new accounting system that we're implementing, and new software and that kind of stuff. So it's a tough move, especially in a business to move all that accounting and finance. It's our current provider, I don't even know. I have maybe 14, 15 accounts, personal, business, payroll, that kind of stuff. So we started slowly moving some stuff over to you guys, and hopefully keep that ball rolling.
However I can help with that, let me know.
Yeah, no, you guys have been wonderful.
But it is. We were just talking about that last week. That anytime that you're moving a business or an individual, anyone from one bank to another, there's.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
There's so many things tied to those accounts, and but we'll get it.
Yeah, we'll get it. And if you're, we have teams of people that can help with that,
facilitate that. Yeah, absolutely.
But and hopefully see you at the golf outing this year.
Yeah.
So
what time of year you guys get?
So I think the tournament itself is on the 17th, July 17th.
Okay.
The 16th is the party.
Okay.
The night of the 16th, and earlier that day is the shootout down in Hershey, which, I mean, come to that. Just come to that and walk along, smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
That's probably the most entertaining day, that Wednesday.
Right.
Because, you can get inside the ropes with the players, and it's an alternate shot. Everyone's on the same hole.
Mm.
So you can see, 20 different teams and, follow one of your favorite players or a good friend of yours that might be in the tournament, or you can join the tournament yourself, and it's just a really fun day. And then that night, of course, is the party that's at the Hershey Lodge. That's the 16th, and then the next day is the Scramble tournament, which is, that's where the whole thing started with that Scramble tournament. Mm-hmm. But that's not, that's not that's not the only fun. There's other things to do throughout the week, so it's really turned into a whole week.
Yeah,
and it's a big venture for us, but we've got some really fantastic vendors like you guys, and it's a big part of it.
Yeah, it's all
those guys, they're coming from, and I say those guys, that's I'm using a gender neutral term. There are people that come from all across the country, and one of the reasons they love coming here is because we do so much for them, and it's that's kind of the formula. Like we lay out the red carpet, we provide them with things like your product, and they love coming here because of that. And then because they come here, then we're able to get bigger sponsors and
Yeah.
raise more money and to give to two great charities.
Charity,
So,
yeah, it's all for good cause.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But hopefully see you then. And,
Absolutely.
thanks for coming in today. You're a
Pleasure.
good guy. All right, Greg.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
buddy.
you.
Thank you for listening to the Mid-Penn Bank podcast. You can find more episodes at Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon, and more. Do you have a question about the podcast? Email us at podcast@midpennbank.com.
References in this podcast to MidPenn are to MidPenn Bancorp, Inc. and its subsidiaries and affiliates. This podcast expresses the views of its participants and may not represent the views of MidPenn or its officers and employees. In addition, these views are subject to change without notice, and MidPenn has no duty or obligation to update the information contained in this podcast. This podcast is being made available for informational purposes only and should not be used for any other purposes. You are encouraged to consult with competent legal, tax, accounting, or investment professionals before engaging in any financial transaction. MidPenn does not make any warranties as to the accuracy or completeness of the information in this podcast, does not endorse any third-party companies, products, or services, and assumes no liability for your use of this information. Forward-looking statements should not be considered guarantees or predictions of future events. This podcast is the sole property of MidPenn and may not be copied, reproduced, republished, or posted in whole or in part in any form without prior written consent of MidPenn.